of LeBron, whatever Joe Kane wants to call him in this next segment, his Lakers fell 99-90 in game one. And it's a concerning start for the defending champs. They go to Phoenix, drop game one. It's not the end of the world, but certainly something we have to look at. So, Joe, the first thing we need to talk about here is how concerned should you be right now if you're a Lakers fan, based on that performance, how the game unfolded and everything?
I'd be pretty concerned, not because of LeBron, though. I'm going to give LeBron his credit. Even though it was flop city for him, I'll give him credit. He was the best player for the Lakers on that court. But I would be more concerned about the surrounding players like Kyle Kuzma, or honestly, if you go to Davidson or know of the place near Davidson, I'm just going to start calling him the Brick House because that's what he was.
He was 0 of 2. And he only played 19 minutes.
That's the problem.
But yeah, he didn't play much. If you want to talk about the Brick House too, you can throw Davis in there.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that about Davis because he can beat me up.
That's Kyle Kuzma can't. He's too soft.
Nah, he's strong, but he's honestly it depends on his hairstyle, whenever he gets a new haircut, it's just, he has a burst of energy and I don't want to be near that. But like right now, I can beat him up.
Anyway, yeah, keep going on your Lakers analysis here.
But I mean, no one was well on that court except for LeBron James. And even then, it wasn't the most impressive performance by him. The Sun, Devin Booker had was great that game. And I think he only shot 50% from field goal.
I mean, that's only against the league's best defense. 50%.
Yeah, only 50%. Only 50%. Yeah, my bad.
He only made half the shots he put
up. That's not like him. I will say it is more concerning when you look at just the number of free throws LA got in their favor compared to the Suns, because those points usually have a just huge effect on the game.
Yeah, I mean, they for context, Phoenix only had, it looks like, 12 free throws. LA had 28. Now LA made 17 and Phoenix made 10, so it's only a 7-point difference. So that's a whole nother thing you could talk about here, but that's fair. The Lakers got a lot of calls and they still lost, and that's a fair point, Joe.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm obviously concerned, and I'm not liking that. I'm also at a disadvantage if I'm the Lakers with the number of home games if this series went out to 7 games. Because I don't want to be going back to Phoenix again with fans and all that. So,
yeah, it was a rowdy crowd. Joe, I'm a little less concerned here because while you can look at it from the box score side, and there's certainly valid points, for one, I mean, look, AD went 5 of 16. And there are questions. I was talking to Nicely yesterday about this from the Ball Fake podcast. We both were like, yo, it is a bit concerning. AD really never turned it into high gear this year. And now in the playoffs, before game one, he's coming out saying he has nothing to prove. And that concerns me because he played like he had nothing to prove. He played, and part of it was he was missing open shots, but his 3-point percentage is down this year. And LeBron, look, coming back from injury, had the hot start to the game, and I thought he was all right. But you're right, Joe. It was a mad performance. It was below LeBron's playoff standard. And
yeah, it's not what you expect from a guy like LeBron.
Yeah, and it's funny we say that because the dude almost had a triple double, but he didn't. He only attempted 13 shots. That's something I'm a bit worried about. Why wasn't he more assertive after that hot start where he went 3 of his first 4? But the other thing I want to note here is, despite all of that, they only lost by 9, and it was with Devin Booker going for 34. And look, Devin Booker can go for 30 plus multiple times in this series.
And lose.
And lose. But the bigger thing out of this is, for one, right, I don't think Booker goes for 30 plus in every game of the series. I think that isn't sustainable. But that's less of a gripe. For me, Ayton, bro. Ayton is a double-double machine sometimes, but he's so inconsistent offensively, and he dropped 21 yesterday. I just can't see that being sustainable throughout the playoffs, especially as the Lakers adjust defensively. And then also, look, Chris Paul's still banged up. Apparently, in the second half of that game, he barely dribbled with his right hand, just because of his shoulder. So there's questions about that. He barely shot the ball as well. So because of all of that, I'm not sitting here in panic mode if I'm the Lakers. But next game is absolutely a must win for me, Joe.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out, like, because we also need to point out this is playoffs, and players are different in playoffs. That's just a fact at this point. After like 100 years of the NBA or some ridiculously long time, there's a regular season form, then playoff form.
Yo, facts. Because
We
people are going
have what I'm actually scared about for the Suns is Booker and Aiden, because we haven't seen their playoff form like in its entirety. And I mean, we know Booker can shoot.
Yeah.
And Aiden can get like any ball off the glass he wants. So with that combo, I mean, and like hopefully Chris Paul does, get better. But with that combo,
I mean, playoff form.
Yeah. I like I would be I'm not going to say I'm terrified if that was the Lakers, but I'd still be just concerned,
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely.
It's
I
a
mean,
new
you go
team.
down 1-0 in a series, but I know people people will be pressing the panic button. I don't think it's time to do that yet. If you go down 2-0, yeah, now maybe I'm like really, really, really worried. But the fact is, you lost a game one on the road in a feel-out game, and despite LeBron's career-long record in game ones, recently his record in game ones is like 2-5, and he's won 4 of those 5 series. So I genuinely believe that. Right, we've seen this movie before. I have faith in the Lakers to be able to bounce back, but you're right, Joe. If Booker continues to play at the level he played at in game one, and if Ayton can become a reliable scoring option, that's where I sit there and I'm like, dang. Because Andre Drummond's not mobile. If you switch to AD at the 5, maybe Ayton could outmuscle him a little. And AD still doesn't look fully 100%. So you bring up fair points there. And that kind of segues us into the next question we want to ask about the Lakers and the Suns. So for one, do you think Phoenix is the favorite here in game 2? And 2, do you believe that, like, what adjustments do you think LA needs to make sure they level this series up? Because we're sitting here, and obviously you're more concerned than I am, but I'm talking like I expect LeBron to win game 2. But that's no guarantee. So I want to know what your thought process is on that game and how the Lakers can actually win that game.
I would expect LeBron to win game 2 as well. But again, this is just not LeBron on the team. It's like 4 of the guys on the court. I think the Lakers are the favorites. Even though it is in Phoenix, they are the favorites. Because it's LeBron coming off a loss in the playoffs. And I think after 17 years by now, we know that is the scariest shit we have ever seen. So I would be like, LA is definitely the favorites in my opinion. I think Vegas has them as the favorites as well. But what they need to change is honestly, I think it all just comes down to Vogel and his rotations. That's it. Like everyone who's in it, like if I have one that's the last cough in 5 minutes, so just
Fair enough.
Everyone just complains about Vogel's damn rotations because they aren't that good. Okay, and I mean this is playoff time. He needs to, sharpen up, and this team hasn't gelled, and we've been saying that. So he needs to think of something instead of putting like all these players on at the same time. He needs to think of something new. He needs to think of a way to utilize every player, and
fair enough. Yeah. So for me, when I look at this, I I agree with you. I think that it comes down to coaching, and a lot of it is problematic. I think a big reason why Ayton was so good yesterday was because he kept getting small guys switched onto him. Like Ayton could just bully smaller dudes. And also Dario Saric even did that on a couple of possessions. Meanwhile, on the other side of the ball, like the Lakers offense was not great yesterday by any stretch. They didn't go inside remotely enough, especially in the first half. I think they, especially when Saric is on the floor, they should have had AD or Drummond back him down and attack. And I know Drummond has his limitations. He's not mobile, but he's a big, big dude. And like, all you got to do is back down a guy in Saric who's not known for his defensive ability whatsoever. And you could move him just by just posting him up. So for me, I think that it comes down to the right people on the floor. Yes, you don't want a situation where Ayton is eviscerating Alex Caruso in the paint. But I'd also want a situation where on the offensive end, you get those mismatches as well. And that also comes down to personnel. Do you have, maybe you play AD at the 5 a bit more and you let him go one-on-one and then see if Phoenix can keep up with the speed? Because Ayton's not super quick. I mean, he's not slow. But you just need to ramp things up on Phoenix a bit more. And that comes down to the rotation point you were alluding to, Joe.
Yeah.